actors I don't think are very loved by a lot of ADs, because they're like, hello sir, आ गया आधा घंटा लेट है. Or when you give a take and you're like, अरे हक दिया ये take. Kunal and Rohit Shetty, who I think took comedy to a scale. There's a big set and somebody's losing it because the light is going and they're like MCBC and you're sitting there saying, this is a new word. I should try it at home. Boom. And you're like, look at that bhige hote tere and all that. That was the vibe. And they were like, abhi murder mein ye kiya to blue film mein to pata hi nahi kya hoga. But then eventually it got called. My parents were never angry about anything with the world. No, I think I imbibe that just watching them live their life and be there with each other and keep this family together.
Funny part is you met Sharmila ji and she was reading a magazine and not looking at it. You want to just recount that?
What films have you done? Where are you from actually? Can I have some water? So, like 15 minutes, I have not got eye contact. Actually, it's the same. It's just that we've had different upbringings. Like, that's what I think Soha and I connected on. She would be amazed at hearing at my local train stories. I was like, but that's normal. And and she would talk about Oxford and this gap year that they had and she traveled to Morocco. I was like, on your own? Amma also, Sharmila ji, she's also, she's the Begum and all of that, but she's very middle class in her values and so when you get to talk to them in the isolation of the Patodi Palace and all of that, it's very much like you know them and you can converse with them. But once you take a step back, you're like, oh, everybody's doing adab and you go to Patodi and you're like, adab. So, what was your question?
Hi, welcome to In the Ring with Filmfare. I'm in conversation with an actor who's probably older than me in the movies. He started as a child actor and wowed us with some really effortless performances. Then he went on to do films like Kalyug and where he was completely, blew our minds. And then finally he took an about turn and went into comedy, where he did films like Golmaal and Go Goa Gone. And finally, his latest Avatar has been very well received as that of a director with his film Madgaon Express. I am in conversation with Kunal Kemmu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So tell me, all you actors are very spoiled, okay? So as a director, what goes in your mind when you're directing other actors?
I think more than being spoiled as actors, I think we're very protected as actors.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much that we can choose what to show or what not to show. Also because, you come in your car, then you walk to your van, and then you're in your van, then you wear this get-up and you come out. And if somebody bothers you, you can choose not to react then. Maybe go to your van and call somebody and say, listen, I had the problem with this. And so, you can keep that side aside and within. But as a director, you're there all the time and you have to choose now. Now you can't, you're in the public view and your team is all around you. So whether you're angry, you're happy, you're sad, you're excited, or you're vulnerable, you're all there and you have to decide how to deal with it. So I thought for me it was very liberating to be a director. And also I think you have all the information because as an actor, you're sitting in the van saying, kya ho raha hai, itna time lag raha hai, and the ADs will come and tell you, so 20 minutes. But nobody will actually tell you ki kya ho raha hai. But as a director, you have that walkie-talkie, right? And every channel has a different department, so you can just check. So I thought that walkie-talkie was like this power that I had that would just give me all the information that I needed. And I also realized that not actors I don't think are very loved by a lot of ADs, because they're like, hello sir, आ गया आधा घंटा लेट है. तुम लोग हमेशा ऐसे बात करते हो ना पीछे. Or when you give a take and you're like, अरे हक दिया ये take में. वो एक्टर है, मैं भी एक्टर हूँ. नहीं सर, देखो ना लाइट जा रहा है, वो टेक पे टेक जा रहा है. So there is a different energy and a different chemistry that exists behind the camera, which I got to enjoy.
You've seen Mahesh Bhatt directing and you've been directed. So as a director, did you think, oh shit, you remember stuff like that?
Sure.
Anytime did it happen? Or, you worked with Mohit,
Yeah.
you worked with, so many directors, but you suddenly think, oh shit, I've subconsciously imbibed stuff from them.
100%. I think every director that I've worked with, even since, being a child actor, I think they've kind of been my teachers unknowingly because you're on set and you're taking all your guidance from them. And I've always been observant of how they behave. And everybody has a different style. I think Bhatt Saab and Mohit, again, because they're from the same school, are very much actors, directors. They like to spend time with the actors more than, the technical aspects of it, to kind of get everything going, and they try to understand the actor and see how they can guide them to emote a certain way. Whereas there are some directors who are more technical, who will rely on your caliber as an actor to kind of bring that out, and they will kind of be, for example, with comedies, working with Priyan sir was such a exhilarating experience because it was very different, and to see him handle like 20 actors at the same time, and he was so clear because he's been an editor, like he would never overshoot. And then going to set with Raj and DK, they had a very off sense of humor. They would like kind of get humor from different things, and then again being on set with Rohit Shetty, who I think took comedy to a scale. Comedies were always thought ki comedy hai, but he made it like a big kind of magnum opus kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And to see him also deal with so many actors, a large, huge crew, and how do you make something look big? So I remember I called Rohit also. I said, when I was shooting this song called Ava Ava for my film, and we were on the beach, it was pretty reminiscent of Golmaal. And I was like, फ्रेम भरना चाहिए, तो वहां से जेटस्की छोड़ दो, बट लेकिन जेटस्की पे कोई बैठा नहीं, ऐसे नहीं डालो, फ्रेम में बड़ा लगेगा, वहां से उसमें छोड़ दो किसी को पैराशूट पे, so the frame looks big. And so all of those learnings have been because I've been on set with so many wonderful directors.
You were a child actor, and it was a very vulnerable phase. As a child actor, you are exposed to, you've come from the insurgency in Kashmir, and then you have to suddenly grow up. Were you exposed to things as a child actor which you should not be? Did you have to grow up too early while on the set?
I don't think so. I think luckily parenting is so important for actors who are children, because it's like they're in control, right? You're not an adult. You don't get to choose. They choose for you. But for me, I remember my parents always, like I remember as an even a child actor, I would want to know what the story is and what my character is, which are not a lot of producers and directors were kind of welcoming of. And they were like, isko kyun sunna hai? But I was like, he wants to know what he's going to do. And Bhatt Saab kind of did that for me. So I was like, this is what it is. And my dad made sure, because he's also from the National School of Drama, he's been an actor, he made sure that I was never exploited is a very dangerous word, but I was never kind of taken for granted, even as a child actor, and I was protected in that way. So I think the only thing that I was exposed to sometimes, which I would have not probably want to be, is language, because that gets thrown around a lot of times. So you're hearing words that maybe you should
swear
not
words.
Swear words, because there's a big set and somebody's losing it because the light is going and they're like MCBC, and you're sitting there saying, this is a new word, I should try it at home. Boom, and you're like, oh sorry, I don't know, I just said it. But other than that, I don't think there was anything that I was exposed to on set, at least, which I shouldn't have been exposed to. And luckily, I worked with good production houses, good directors, good actors who were very conscious of the fact that there's a child on set. And yeah, so I don't think I have trauma on set.
How did you decide to become a director? You were doing so well as an actor, and everyone, whenever I say I'm meeting Kunal, so their face lit up. Oh, there's a warmth for you. Right. So why did you suddenly decide to change?
Saying that things were going very well as an actor is such a loose statement, because I don't know when things actually are consistently and constantly going well for an actor. I think an actor's life is
very
full
uncertain.
of roller coaster, because you're not in control of a lot. You're only in control of your performance, and you're just a small spare part in the large scheme of things when it comes to filmmaking, right? A film may work for so many reasons, but if you're the actor, you take away all the glory. And this film may not work for so many reasons, but if you're the actor, you kind of suffer the brunt of it. But in those ups and downs, there are times when an actor can be unemployed for a very long time. And those are the times. Yeah. There were 6 months or a year sometimes. It's also to say that you choose to do the work that you do. And I believe that I have at least chosen to be an actor because I really enjoy the process of being an actor. It gives me an opportunity to go and honestly live a life which is not mine. So if I'm not going to enjoy it, I don't want to do it. And when I say that, so the work that was coming my way, sometimes there is so much, and there are like 10 things that you love and you pick 2 to do or 3 to do. And then sometimes there are 10 things which you don't like any of. And you're like, okay, if I do this, if it goes down, I will not be happy. I don't believe in this. Why am I doing this? At least I should like something to. So you end up not doing, and you say that I'll wait for the right thing, because like I said, it's very unpredictable for an actor, because today you may be celebrated, next year they may not remember you at all, and you may not get those chances again and again. So those are the times when you say, okay, what do I do? So sometimes I'll pick up a hobby, you travel. But then I always had this knack to tell stories, but I'd never written. But when I did a film like Go Go Gone, where I kind of ended up writing, I got the discipline of writing on a laptop and final draft. So then I started saying that, okay, when I have this time, and I'm really frustrated at times, and I'm very angry at times, how do I channelize it? So it began with the process of writing. So I ended up writing these stories that I liked, and never really initially had the courage to kind of put it out there, because you're always scared of being judged, because you sometimes think there's this great saying I believe in, like, you suffer in your thoughts more than you do in reality. So in your thoughts you're always saying that, oh, I'm going to be judged. They'll be like, oh, now actor wants to write also, what does he want to do now, and all that. So a lot of time went by with that just lying there. Eventually I read it to a few friends, and the word got out, and they laughed and they said this is great. Even then I thought that this would be something that I've written and I would want to act in. Secretly maybe I did want to direct it, but I was like, how much faith and trust and a punt will somebody take on me? But then that's what happened. Like every time this conversation would reach a point of saying, okay, let's do this, the question was, who's going to direct it? And a couple of times it was thrown my way that, why don't you direct it? And I remember in 2017, I wasn't ready to say that, okay, I also was in a place in my mind and my heart where I didn't want to do this when I had a vacuum of work. Because somehow in my head it felt like it will mean that I'm giving up on acting and I'm trying to do something else. And however convoluted it sounds, I thought that I want to say no to acting work, to say yes to this, so that I don't want anybody to think कि, ये दुकान नहीं चली तो नई दुकान खोली है. That for me
So you're
was,
doing both.
Yeah, so I said for me this is something that I enjoy doing while I'm not saying bye to acting. So that's what happened. So when I was doing a lot of these things, and Excel kind of came into the picture, and they read the script and liked it, the same discussion happened again, saying that who's going to direct it? I said, I don't know, you say. And they were like, but you've narrated it so well, you seem to know in and outs of it, you should direct it. And this time I was like, okay, I mean, it's your money. If you feel that you have that faith in me, yes, I will. And then I said, okay, then let me go and finish my acting commitments and start saying no to work so that I can do this. And that's how it happened. And I'm very happy that I did, because I really enjoyed this.
How much of your buddy bonding? I mean, I've seen on Instagram all you guys go out on trips and all of that. Your male friendships, how much of that has contributed to your buddy movie?
I think growing up, I was traveling. Because I was born in Srinagar, then we came to, was a Mira Road. Then my school was there. So I had friends in school. But then when I went to college, I was the only guy who went to NM. So I didn't have school friends who went there. Then I made some more friends there that I did theatre with. So I never had like a gang of friends that was consistently, saying bachpan ke dost saath mein bade hue. So a lot of it was what my idea of buddy friendship was, or films like Dil Chahta Hai and all the buddy films that you watch growing up, even in the West, that kind of becomes your idea of what friendship is. And then I would always think that, okay, if these were my friends and this was my life, how would this translate? And that's how my buddy and my buddy's story kind of came from. But I've never had consistent, I mean, I have like friends who've been my friends for a long time, and now I've rekindled a lot of my school friendships and started hanging out with them a lot. But I've never had like a group of friends that always been consistent. So I think that's where it came from. Because you've not had that, you want to create it.
I read a very funny story that, your first debut, I mean, as a full-fledged adult, it was actually called The Blue Film or something. Yeah. So, how did that happen? And, it then, of course, went to being called Kalyug. Yeah. So then you went apparently with your pictures and, did it seem like the perfect launch pad for you? What?
I do think when I heard the story, of course, I mean, I thought this is a great film to kind of be a part of, because it's just going back a little bit when I, Zakham was like a retirement of 3 people, like professionals. Like that was Pooja's last film as an actor. Now, of course, she's kind of started doing that again. But Bhatt Saab had quit, direction. And for me, that was my last film as a child actor. So when we finished that film,
that's 93.
No, that was 98 actually. 93 was my first film.
Oh yeah,
I'm not that old.
Sir and Hame Rai Pyar.
Hame Rai Pyar Ke was my first.
Okay.
My second film.
Sorry, apologies.
So I remember when I finished that film, and I remember Bhatt asking me, "What do you want to do?" And I said, that was actually the time when I had thought that acting is something that I really enjoy, and I think I'm good at it, because before that, you're a kid in a film and everybody will say you're so cute and like it's so nice to see you on screen, and you never take that seriously. But Zakhmi was the first time that the performance got kind of loved so much, and I by then had kind of developed this love for cinema and the big screen. So I remember when he asked me, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Listen, I'm not telling my parents this, but I definitely want to give it a shot to be an actor." So he said, "If you do, then you do remember that you have to come to us." So I said, "Okay." And then I was doing theatre in college, and one of those IPTA performances, Bhatt was there. He said, "Oh, you kept doing acting?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "When you finish college?" I said, "I mean, I'll be a graduate in 2 more years." He said, "I'll see you then." And he kind of kept that word, because when I finished my education, I told my father, I said, "Give me a year. If I let me do this, if I can't do this in a year, then I'll kind of come back and do masters in whatever I want to do." So that 1 year was my year of trying to kind of go out and get some work, and that's when I did this photo shoot that I went to meet Bhatt with. And eventually, Vishesh Films decided that they were going to launch me, and they were looking for a film. But so there were a lot of ideas that were being discussed. Later, I found out this was a film that was actually written and was supposed to be made for Rahul, who's Bhatt son.
Okay.
So I didn't know the premise, neither the title, and I remember Bhatt one day called me and he said, "Office Aja." When he narrated the story to me, he said, "This is the film that we thought we'll make with you." And I said, "This is amazing. Like, I can't believe that you've thought of this film. It's got action, it's got everything, and angst and all that. It's great." So he says, "Okay." And then he didn't tell me. And then I heard it like a conversation. So he's like, Mukesh ji came in and said, "तो फिर blue film में कुणाल है ना?" I was like, "कौन सी film है?" I said, "Blue film. It's called Blue Film." I said, "Oh, I see." And then when I went back home, I remember precisely that evening मैं भाजी लेने गया था मम्मी के साथ. तो मैं भाजी मार्केट में चल रहा था एंड मम्मी ने पूछा था कैसे, ऐसे बहुत अच्छी पिक्चर. तो सर, "ओ तू सो यू आर डूइंग इट?" आई सेड, "हाँ, आई एम गोइंग टू डू इट." "नाम क्या है?" सर, "अभी रखा नहीं." एंड आई रिमेंबर हम लोग भाजी लेके जा रहे थे, देयर वर अदर्स वो लगा रहे कैसा है, क्या चल रहा है एंड ऑल दैट, एंड दे वर माय मदर वाज ऑब्वियसली लाइक, इसको पिक्चर हो गई तो पिक्चर कर रहा है, एवरीबॉडी लाइक क्या नाम है, आई वाज लाइक अभी रखा नहीं. और अंदर से मेरी हालत खराब हो रही थी कि मैं बताऊंगा कैसे ये. Also because they just made murder. And that भीगे होंठ तेरे and all that was the vibe. And they were like, अभी मर्डर में ये किया तो ब्लू फिल्म में तो पता ही नहीं क्या होगा. हमने पोस्टर भी शूट कर दिया. और एक पोस्टर है वो ऐसा जैकेट पहन के मेरे हाथ में गन है और उसके नीचे ब्लू फिल्म लिखा हुआ है. वो भी मैं घर पे नहीं लेके गया. फिर मैंने पहले पापा को बताया. मेरे पापा ऐसा ऐसा है. पापा ने बोला, "अच्छा देखो तुम फिल्म में ऐसा कुछ नहीं है ना." नहीं, फिल्म तो बहुत अच्छी है. फिर तो कोई नहीं, just have faith in that. And that was the truth. Like, I still believed in the film and the script. Luckily, then the media outlets said that we can't promote a film. That's why there was nobody wanted to do that film. They had the toughest time casting for the entire film. But then eventually it got called Kalyu.
Tell me, did your parents, because they are actors, your granddad is a playwright.
He was a playwright, yes.
Did they give you any kind of advice? Like, you've seen your parents struggling. I mean, leaving Kashmir and coming itself must be trauma. Then you live in a place like Mira Road, right, and coming to, there's a lot of that goes, right, with it. What is the kind of advice they give you?
Actually, when I sit down to think about it, I've never been in a situation where I've been sat down by my parents and said, "Look, this is what you do." I think advice is something that's being thrown at you. Sometimes it's like while somebody's shouting at you, "Are you mad? Just sit down and do that." My moms will be like that. Or, dad will be like, "Okay, listen, do what your heart says, but not right now. Do it later. First you finish your education." And then, so a lot of it has come that way. But I think they've always been eventually they've been very supportive of what I've done. And my dad and my mom are very different, right? My dad's always been, in a way, kind of rebel. It goes like from my grandfather, and he decided to write and do that. And then my father went to National School of Drama. So he saw that. And he said, "But, protect yourself. One thing that I can tell you is that this is not going to be all, you're not actually going to live in a la-la land. There's going to be a lot of waiting. There's going to be a lot of heartbreak. So just know what you're getting into. And but if you believe in it and you're good at it, so just go do that." And I remember, like, even when I did theatre, I used to never let them come to watch my plays because I used to get very awkward and nervous. I was like, "Pata nahi." But I would come back with medals, and so it became so. Like the one day I was like, आपने तो मेरे फोटो भी नहीं खिंचा यार, मेरे को इतने सारे मेडल और मैं लाता था, जबकि मेरे जो दोस्त हैं उनको कॉन्सुलेशन प्राइज मिलता था तो उनकी दीवारों पे लगा देते थे घर वाले. तो मैं कहा आप नहीं तो he said that, what do you want me to say? Like, I'm so proud of you and you do that. Like, I never felt that this was something out of the ordinary. And I see that. So, like a lot of advice in my case has not come by sitting down and saying this is the mantra of life, but it's just like living with them on a day-to-day basis and knowing where their principles and their morals are. And I think the biggest thing that ever happened is they never let, like you said, the exodus happened and all of that, but there was never any bitterness that they like to kind of let slide down the next generation. They never, my parents were never angry about anything
No.
with the world. No. So I think I imbibed that just watching them live their life and be there with each other and keep this family together. And that's what it's been. And I think we also that family where I don't know if I've. My dad will often be like, "Hey, listen, what's going on?" And I'll often be like, "I don't want to bother you with it," and he'll always be like, "No, tell me." And then he'll have his point of view, and we get into arguments, we have discussions, and that's how it's been. And I think as much as they say, the parents are parents and they don't need to be friends, but I think we've kind of got that best balance of being a friend and a parent kind of going.
What is the advice you'd give a 20-year-old Kunal?
Oh my god. Learn up on PR and marketing and get the best ones and tell them I don't know anything. Because I realized that in my journey that's something that kind of was said to me time and again. And I didn't know that. Because, growing up, I thought that's what acting is. Like you go and you do what you do. And people watch it and they enjoy it. And actually that time, up until Zakham also, I don't think there was promotions didn't happen of films. There was a trailer that would happen, and I don't even remember doing interviews. I would do interviews after the film came out, so I don't know if with actors that happened. So I was unaware of that side of the world, which kind of in those 6 years that I was away, kind of really sped up. And I wasn't. I mean, it wasn't even in my scheme of things to do. I wasn't somebody who wanted to tell everybody, "Hey, listen, this is what I also do, and this is how I look, and I'm going to do this." We always grew up in a household saying that, "बेटा पहले काम हो जाने दो, पहले ढिंडोरा नहीं पीटते." But ये तो अलग ही चल रहा था. और वो भी होता था कि नजर लग जाएगी बेटा थोड़ा संभल के just pray everything is going right. And I would never disclose who I'm meeting or a film that I said no to or a woman that I went out for dinner to. And then I realized, oh, this needs to be done. But I was like, I can't do this. So I just realized that I was ill-equipped in that department. So back to 20-year-old, I'll be like, buddy, this is also a part and parcel of it.
So how do you make your peace with? I mean, we are all a pre-social media generation.
Yeah.
So how do you get a movie based on your Instagram following? You have to put out a certain image of yours on Instagram. How are you easy with it?
No, I mean, after years, I've realized they say always be yourself. I don't think you can't not be yourself. You will always be yourself. Because if you try to be somebody else, you'll get tired doing that. And when you get tired doing something, that means it's not for you. Because otherwise, you can be on a film set for 24 hours working and you still feel because you love doing that. But, if you're put in an awkward, it's like wearing an ill-fitting suit. Even if you look good for a fashion show, when it's so ill-fitting, you're sitting like this and you can't, put your leg up and your socks are showing and you can't eat properly. After 2 hours, you'll be like, "मुझे कभी नहीं पहनना है जिंदगी में यार, फेंक दो ये suit." So it's like that. So I have also tried at times to, okay, this is what needs to be done. Let's do it. I'll go and do this. But then not felt good about it at the end of the day. And I was like, if I'm not enjoying this, if I'm not feeling good about myself, why am I doing it? So to answer your question, you can either, or maybe you take it up like a performance, which I could. Like, okay, this is a part that I have to play. So 2 hours in a day, I am playing this PR savvy character. So let me go and live this. Some people do it very well, and I have a lot of respect for them for being able to do that. I just realized that I am not that guy. So I don't do that. And if you even see my Instagram, it's like suddenly I will get into that zone being a Gemini. I'll be like, hey, I should put out some pictures. And then in a week, you'll see 4 posts. And then for 2 months, you'll not see anything. But that's how I am. And then that's another stressful thing. But you got to keep this going, interaction going, and this and that. It's like, I can't go to work for my social media account. मैं खुद को नौकरी पे नहीं रख सकता.
Nice. How do you manage comedy so well? And then suddenly you played this lean, mean machine in Malang, right?
Yeah.
How did you manage villainy and comedy so well?
I just love acting, and I think that's a part and parcel of being an actor. And I these are the times where I feel like I'm very happy when somebody sees me like that, or gives me an opportunity, or even takes a risk of letting me do that. And if I'm able to deliver, then it's great. But as an actor, I just feel that's the beginning of, like, that's how a conversation would start. Like, if you said that, okay, this is an actor, he only does comedy, then he's not an actor, right? Then he's a comedian, or this is an action star. Then you segregate them. But an actor, I feel by definition, is somebody who should be able to do all of that.
And are you easy doing all these sequels? Like there was a talk of Go Goa Gone happening again,
Right.
and I'm sure they will say make do a sequel to Madgaon Express. So I mean, what do your co-stars and all of you talk to each other about when you know?
I think it's going to be different for an actor than a maker, because actors would still go and do a franchise that's very popular. I mean, at the end of the day, if a writer's written a script that the directors liked and the producers are happy with, and your part is something that you're happy with, you can go and do that. I think it's tougher for a writer, firstly, and a maker to kind of take a film that's done so well and then try to, if not better it, but at least keep it consistent. I always feel it's a risk because, with the first one, always there's no expectation, and then it garners love. But for the second one, there is an expectation which has been created by the first one. So it's even more riskier to firstly land it than completely different to kind of go leaps and bounds with it. And I feel the same is the case with remakes. Certain films you are very risky to remake, and I don't know if that too I feel as an actor also, because then you're gonna go and get into the shoes of somebody who's played an iconic part and try to, firstly live up to that, and I don't know if you can better that. So it's always going to be different. But as an actor, it's easier to say yes to that.
How does it feel directing actors? Did they throw tantrums? Did you like, oh my god, my sins are being revisited?
No. I think I was very lucky, and I don't know, because I've never been a director before this, so I don't know how it is for other.
Is
directors.
that was it the world's best kept secret that you're going to be a director? Suddenly, Madgaon Express came, and everybody said, "Wow, Kunal's made a
It
film."
could have been in a way, because between me finding out that I'm going to direct this and everybody else finding out, I think there was like a couple of weeks. So I remember when I kind of got out of that meeting with Ritesh and I called Soha. She was like, "Hey, what's up?" I said, "He offered me to direct this film." He said, "Oh, what did you say?" I said yes. And she says, "Now what's going to happen?" I said, "They also said yes." No, this is happening. She's like, "Oh, that's great." I was like, "Is it? I don't know. I have not walked this road. How is it going to happen?" And somebody looks at it, what do you think is the budget of the film? मेरे को क्या मालूम? मैंने तो ऐसे लिख दिया. कितने दिनों में खत्म करेगा? I said, तो चलना पड़ेगा तब बता सकता हूँ कब पहुँचूंगा. So a lot of this was also acting. It was also acting.
Yeah.
A lot of times everybody's looking at you for answers.
So first day of shooting was crazy.
Shooting तक तो मैं set हो गया था, क्योंकि वो even hiring the people that you're going to get is a bit of a task, because you don't know anything, right? You just you imagine the film and you've seen the frame. So I'm very clear with that, how it's going to flow. But who's going to be able to help me to do that? I don't know.
So you didn't write with any particular actor in mind to be.
No. मैंने सिर्फ अपने लिए Dodo had written for myself. मैं hero उस picture का. But I mean, this was for three boys, so it was always kind of open, and I imagined certain actors, and I landed most of those. So for me, it was more to kind of get that team going, because I think a lot of direction is just managing people and getting that work done. And you have to be patience is something that I've learned, because the same question you have to answer over and over and again 100 times. But I didn't know I would be able to do that, because I was like, मैं 100 बार तक तो बोलूँगा, बैठ समझ क्यों नहीं आ रहा तेरे को, लिख के दे दूँ क्या? But I was very surprised with my own self, because I was so patient. I would repeat myself 1,000 times and till everybody knew what they were doing, and that made the production process very seamlessly easy, because that just went by. A lot of hard work was put pre, and then of course post is something that is taxing, because you're not all the time doing stuff. You're waiting on things to be completed so that you can go watch it, give your feedback, make that happen. So edit while you may enjoy because you're there in the edit room and saying, no, let's try and do this. After that, a lot of that, BGM, you'll go and say, okay, ek reel dekhi, do reel dekhi, you give your thing, then you have to wait for 3-4
But
days.
how do you learn all the technical aspects and all BGM and edits and all that?
See, that I grew up on films, right? And I've always been in edit rooms, in music sessions. Like I remember when Kalyug happened, we were at all the music recordings. I went to BGM also, and that because I used to just enjoy kind of being there and edit sessions. And also, I think Batsa was one of those teachers who kind of pushed you to do it. कि come, tomorrow song recording is happening or lyrics लिखे जा रहे हैं या dialogues पे हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं, बैठो देखो. Dad was also like that because Dad also kind of did a lot of theatre and then he made a lot of television shows. So I would watch those VHSs or go to an edit room with him and see what they're saying, take one, take two, how
You acted
continuities
with
get.
him in Gulshan Gulfam?
Yes, but that was something that they were acting. That was my first
Okay.
debut cameo that I did with. So I'd been on film sets, and like I said, I love the entire process of filmmaking. So I knew what the departments were, how they worked. But what was amazing is that this time I had the opportunity to not only give suggestions, but also decide what works, right? So that's like a great place to be in, which is like great powers comes with great responsibility because I was like with this film, I can't hide behind anything. As an actor also, I'm not saying you're hiding, but like I said, an actor is a spare part. Like, so you can't be like, you're like, oh, you were very good in that film, yeah, but the screenplay let you down or the BGM could have been better. Here, I can't. I mean, if somebody says something is good, thank you very much. That sucked. My fault. I'm very sorry because it seemed correct to me. So that was something that was very exciting.
Were you prepared for the kind of feedback and reviews? Do you all have test shows and
Right.
try? Later, when the critics and all sort of praised it, and the brickbats as well as the bouquets, were you? I mean, what surprised you?
Before the release happened, you have those multiple sessions. When you before the BGM happens, you put a cut together, and some people see it, and you get feedback and all of that. That was a very interesting time because there were multiple days where you would go back home thinking different things. One day you could go back thinking that, I'm very happy, I made a good film. The next day you could go back, I've made crap. It's so bad. Like, somebody's not laughed or somebody's not connected with something, and you truly believe that it's shit. And then you're like, I'm going to just chop this off and chop that off. And then you kind of 2 days later kind of take a break and then you're like, no, it made sense and you have to follow. So I think that's where the learning is. Like, how much will you let go based on what people say? How much of your voice will actually translate to the screen? Because once the film came out, luckily for me, that day, the first day when the press screening happened and, the cast and crew also happened the same day. And I was running between theaters to kind of see yahan pe kya ho raha hai. And it was so, I think that's my best memory, to just be in that press screening. And I know a lot of those press guys who spoke to me later, they'd come from somewhere else and it kind of ran late. So not all of them were in a good mood when the film started, and it started late. So I was like, Ghay. But then to hear them laugh and the interval happened and they came out charged, and when the film finished, that is going to be like my most, like, I remember it. And just to hear them laugh, forget what they come out and tell you, because let's say 50% of that is manufactured to make you feel better. But the honesty with which they were laughing, clapping, or whistling, because I was hiding, they didn't know I was there. So that kind of stayed with me. And from there on, I must say that, 99% of it has been just so amazing. And I wouldn't lie saying that I didn't expect it. I'd hoped for it. But the fact that it landed feels great, because it's amazing to get the love in the present when it's important. Because I've got it a lot of times in hindsight, saying that, oh, I saw that film, it was so amazing. But when it released, a lot of people didn't know about that film, right? So you always wonder. But with this, it just made all the noise at the right time.
Did you get more love as a director than you got as an actor?
I think so. I think so. I don't know. It's just based on the initial reaction, right? And this is just my first. Luckily, and being an actor has trained me not to take anything very seriously, because it was the same when Kalyu came out and like everybody was just talking about me, and then Traffic Signal also solidified that, and then Dhol happened, and everybody like, पागल हो गया क्या, solo hero के बाद 3 hero 4 hero क्यों कर रहा है? I was like, हम तो थिएटर में सोचते थे रोल छोटा बड़ा नहीं होता. But then it made sense, because in the scheme of things, I was killing my own market, but I didn't know the market, right? So and then Superstar was my first box office flop, which still in hindsight gives me a lot of love. Everywhere that I go, there kids who've now grown up who swear by that film. So but that was the first time I kind of dealt with a box office flop, and I saw the reduction in the love and the appreciation and the gifts that were coming home, or the calls that were coming, and the places that you were getting invited to. So I think that's kind of prepped me as a director, at least, to know not to take it seriously.
So does it sort of affect your mental health? Lot is not spoken about men's mental health. The uncertainty, the waiting, like you said, you sit at home for 6 months. So how do you sort of fortify yourself?
You have to go through it. There's no way around it. I mean, you can cry about it, you can fight about it, you can pull your hair or like do 20 push-ups or 100 push-ups. You have to walk through that. I mean, there's no easy way around it. Like, if it's not like having gone through it, I've figured it out all. There are certain things with age, they will kind of come. Like, I know how to handle it better now only because I've gone through it. If you've not gone through it, then it's going to be a shocker to your system for the very first time. But I keep saying that it's very important to be aware of it, not be in denial. Denial is the problem where everything starts, right? If you're upset, then know that you're upset, and it's okay to tell somebody that, I'm sorry, I don't want to meet you today because I'm very upset and I don't want this to go haywire, or at least to your family. And okay, even if you don't tell them, you should tell yourself that, okay, I'm upset, I'm angry about this, I'm going through it, I'll get through it, and like we'll figure it out. However it happens, it still happens. It's not like now today I might still be in a phase where something affects me, and then you go into your shell, so to say, but you come out of it stronger. And there are other ways of doing it, like some people do meditation, some people do yoga. I like to work out because that chemically anyways releases certain endorphins in your bodies that kind of take care of you. But like I said, I think the most important thing is have your support group, whether it's your friends, families.
But you've never taken therapy or gone to the.
I haven't. But no. But see, because I have always been very vocal. I think it's important and there's nothing. Firstly, there is nothing wrong about talking to a therapist. That stigma, that trauma, that taboo has to go out of the way kids are doing it. Everybody who needs it must get it. It does not mean that you're mentally unwell. There is a difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. A psychiatrist prescribes you medicines. A psychologist just talks to you and gives you ways of dealing with it. For me, because like I said, I am somebody who talks about it. So I have friends, families, and it's never reached a point where they've said that, listen, we don't know what you're talking about. It's so alien to us that you should get help, and speak to somebody who will give you those steps or what you should do. So, but if you haven't, I would be very happy to meet somebody. My mind is very twisted, so I'm sure I will discover some new things about myself. So, yeah, I think everybody should talk to somebody. And if you don't have family and friends available, please talk to a therapist.
Were you in any kind of relationships before you met Soha? And what is the kind, if I asked you for, what is the relationship advice you'd give people?
You see, advices are so फ्री में है ना, तो दे दो. इसके पैसे लगते ना तो कोई नहीं देता, ना कोई लेता. But relationships are such, okay, they're always going to be different. Nothing's going to, just know that for a relationship to work, you have to make sacrifices. And I'm not saying compromises, I'm saying sacrifices. रिश्ते जिद से चलते हैं. If you decide, if I choose to be in a relationship with somebody, I have to walk that walk. I can't abandon that the first time I see trouble. It's like bringing up a child or a dog or a pet. It will have its challenges. So you have to just not give up on it. It's like everything in life. I do feel that this is, we live in an age where it's getting tougher for people to be in a relationship, because just like social media and dating app culture and all of that, it is very simple. Like today, you must also get that. I want to watch something, right? I really want to get my entertained. So I go, पहले तो मेरे को था अभी कौन से प्लेटफॉर्म पे जाऊँ, 12 है, सबकी सब्सक्रिप्शन लेके रखी है, नेटफ्लिक्स पे चलता है, नेटफ्लिक्स पे गए. अब वहाँ पर वो पहले तो टॉप 10 आता है, ये देखने का मन है, अरे ये भी बहुत अच्छा है यार. और फिर आप 15-20 आधा घंटा आपका उसमें चला जाता है, जो रेस्टोरेंट में भी होता है, क्योंकि मेन्यू इतना बड़ा होता है, उसमें टाइम निकल जाता है. अब इसमें टाइम निकल जाता है क्योंकि सब अवेलेबल है. हम बचपन में 6 बजे जायंट रोबोट देखने के लिए दूरदर्शन पर बैठते थे. फिर जब हम 5 आया तो हमको पता था ये अभी 5 बजे जी टीवी शुरू होगा, 9 बजे बंद हो जाएगा, तो वो लाइफ प्लान थी उस हिसाब से. पेपरों में देखते थे, कार्टून नेटवर्क में कब आएगा शॉर्ट कैट्स या everything was there. So those were simpler times and we were disciplined according to it. Similarly in a relationship, रोज डे कब है, उस दिन पहला मूव हो सकता है. अभी क्या है, अरे रुक यार 5 किलोमीटर 10 किलोमीटर टप 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 टप, आया नहीं आया गया, अच्छा हुआ, बाय बाय टाटा बाय बाय. तो वो पेशेंस ही नहीं बची. सो आई थिंक वो रोमांस के लिए ना थोड़ा ओल्ड स्कूल होना जरूरी है.
So you are old school.
मैं तो उसी टाइम पे था ना, मैं तो स्कूल से ही आया हूँ. मेरे टाइम पे था नहीं टिंडर विंडर.
You know, I had read this very funny. I don't know if I read it or I heard it. So you meet the parents' situation. So apparently, after you and Soha decided, okay, we're going. You met the parents and you met Saif at. You were playing pool or something, and the funny part is you met Sharmila ji, and she was reading a magazine and not looking at you. You want to just recount that quickly?
Yeah, I didn't get the eye contact. Actually, that was my first meeting as somebody who's dating Soha. Both my meetings. Before that, I met her on the sets of 99, shooting in a hotel. I was in a bathrobe. That's it. I was not wearing anything. So I was like, firstly, Sharmila Tagore was coming, and I was in that costume and I couldn't change. So I was very awkward that time, meeting her in a costume, saying hello ma'am, how are you and all that. Cut to now, this is the next time in the house I've been called and all that. And it was pretty much like that. I mean, firstly she was looking at this magazine. So she's like, hi, and I'm like, hello. So what do you do? And this is at the magazine, you're sitting there. And I'm answering the question. Okay, so what films have you done? Where are you from actually? Can I have some water? So, like 15 minutes, I have not got eye contact. And I'm literally sweating and saying, ये तो job interview जैसा लग रहा है यार. मुझे नौकरी मिलेगी कि नहीं? मतलब इतना तो मैं film set पे नहीं nervous था. और मैं उसको look दे रहा था कि ये normal है. So, but that was the first time. And the second time I got eye contact. And my car... because I opened the car for her. She had to look at me. Otherwise, she like, darwaza band kar dega. And then slowly, she warmed up to me. And I think we connected while cooking in London. And I love to cook and she loves to cook. And she's a great cook. So, and she saw me chopping onions and I was like making, she's like, what are you making? I said, making dal. She said, what are you making? I said, gobi. Okay, let's make it together. And we kind of connected on that. So, after that, we've been great. After that, she's not looked away from me.
What about Saif? I mean, he's so cool. Everybody knows he's cool, and the good thing about him is he's so well traveled, and he can talk about anything under the surface of the earth. So, what's the kind? Were you prepared for this? First of all, was it like a huge culture difference between your two families, and when you got together?
Culturally it's the same. It's just that we've had different upbringings. Like that's what I think Soha and I connected on. She would be amazed at hearing at my local train stories. I was like, but that's normal. And and she would talk about Oxford and this gap year that they had, and she traveled to Morocco. I was like, on your own? She's like, yeah, I mean, in London, do you have a gap year? I was like, ये क्या होता है? She's like, वो students जो 1 साल पढ़ाई नहीं करते, वो घूमते हैं. ये हमको तो किसी ने नहीं बताया. बैकपैकिंग में बोला, बैकपैकिंग क्या होती है? मैं तो कितने ना बैकपैक किए हुए, ये ऐसे होता है. तो मैं बोला, मेरी तो उम्र निकल गई यार, मैं तो कर ही नहीं सकता अभी. So a lot of those things, and I remember the first time कुछ एक ब्लैक टाई डिनर में गए थे लॉर्ड्स में, लॉन्ग रूम में, और वो टक्सीडो पहन के खाना खा रहे थे यार. तो मैंने कहा इसमें तो मैं बैठ नहीं पा रहा. That was when I was saying. और उसमें फिर वो इधर वाइन है, इधर अलग अलग ग्लास, तो वो भी नहीं पता कि ये इसमें ये पीते हैं, ये चम्मच उठा के ऐसे रखना है, क्रॉस की हो गया खा के. वो मेरा प्लेट ही नहीं लगा रहा था, मैं खा गया. और उन्होंने ना, उनकी सीटिंग भी अलग होती है, जिनको आप जानते हो उनके साथ नहीं बिठाते हो ताकि बातचीत हो. तो मैं तो स्ट्रेंजर्स के साथ बैठा था. तो मैं अब हेलो हो गया बात.
This is after your marriage or before?
No, before. Okay. And I remember and I looked at across at her and she was like, उठाएगा नहीं तब तक. तो मैं कहा इसका डांडिया खेलना क्या, इसमें करना क्या है. तो ऐसे रखा तो उठाया. फिर वो 5 कोर्स ये वो. तो मेरे को खुजली आ रही थी, ये ना बंद हो रखा था पूरा. और हम तो घर पे भी जब चौकड़ी मार के खाना खाते हैं, अगर अच्छा खाना तो बटन खोल के खाते हैं. इधर इतना वो पहन के खाना खाते हैं, तो इतना अच्छा था मगर खाया नहीं गया. तो मेरे को अपनी मम्मी की बात याद आ रही थी. मम्मी कहती, बेटा इतना अच्छा खाना वेस्ट कर दिया तूने, मैं कैसे खाऊं, खाया नहीं जा रहा. So that was basically then I still don't own tuxedos. I mean, I own one because I had to. So a lot of difference was of the kind of living that we've had culturally. Though we're Indians, so pretty much the same. And I think Amma also, Sharmila ji, she's also, she's the Begum and all of that, but she's very middle class in her values and her. So when you get to talk to them in the isolation of the Patodi Palace and all of that, it's very much like you know them and you can converse with them. But once you take a step back, you're like, oh, everybody's doing adab, and you go to Patodi and you're like, adab. So, what was your question?
No, I mean, Saif also.
Yeah, he's so much fun. He's like, for me, more than him being Soha's family, he was like, this is a friend that I have that I really like hanging with. And he is also no filter sometimes, right? So he can
Oh, he has
be bindas.
absolutely no
Yeah,
filter.
yeah, he's, and like you said, he's so well read and well traveled that what's nice is with him, I don't remember ever talking about the industry or the business that we are in. Even if you talked about films, and we talked about other films or screenplays, or I got a one day he was just in this mood of talking about different arts, like the influence of certain artists and all that. और मेरे को painting ही लगती है, मेरे को ज़्यादा समझ में नहीं आता. So I was pretending for an hour because he was so passionately talking about it, and after an hour I was like, मेरे को पहला सवाल पूछो, मैं गलत आंसर दूंगा क्योंकि मेरे को कुछ याद नहीं है. But it's nice to kind of be in company of people where you can learn something also, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's always cool hanging with him, and he's also got a wicked sense of humor. So, yeah.
So who's your most favorite Patodi?
My most favorite Patodi right now is Jay. But otherwise I have to say Bhai and Bebo, because we spend the most time, and with Amma there's always although I sometimes I'll आपके टाइम पे कैसे होता था, अम्मा बताओ, give me some gossip and all of that. But otherwise it's like with, like I said, with Bhai it's like we're friends. So
Bebo's also mad, na? Completely
Bebo's
mad.
lots of fun. She is actually funnier than him also. I think she's funnier than me also at times. The way she narrates stories, and she has a great time. She loves food, which even so she and I also bond on food a lot of times. So yeah, it's a good bunch.
Also, a very heartwarming thing is your relationship with your daughter. I mean, if you going by the Instagram stuff, and generally it's very interesting. Does that make you realize also that all that you've made your parents go through? I mean, do you sort of?
Yeah, no, of course you see a semblance of yourself, and there are things that you're like, hey, I used to do that, and it's cool to see like this smaller, different version of you behaving or reacting or asking the same questions and having the same energy. Like, she's also very animated, and she has a lot of energy, and like my mom used to always say that, like, one thing that I've realized very common with is, if we ever stand to say, okay, let's do a picture, she'll never put a straight face. She'll always make some funny face and all that, which is something that I used to do. My mom used to always, even till date, she's like, I don't have a single picture with you which I can frame because you just make the weirdest faces in them. She did it on her own, and like it was like, oh, that's cool to see. So I think with parenting, it's like nothing can prepare you for that, because every kid is so different, and so your style of parenting has to be modified to that kid. And I am very happy that she gave birth to a father and me, and I'm very blessed to have a family where we are, touch wood, all of us are healthy and happy.
And she seems like a remarkably bright kid. I mean, she's painting, she's doing all kinds
That's the other thing I realized, with जो हमारे parents हमारे साथ बोलते थे ना कि आजकल के बच्चे तो ये है, अब हम वो अंकल हो गए. आजकल के बच्चे तो already इतना आगे हैं. The things that they're talking about and discussing, they're like I didn't even know things that she does when I was like in 10th maybe. Because they have access to so much, and they're also going to schools where they're discussing things which are out of syllabus. Like whale migration. मेरे को तो ये बहुत टाइम तक नहीं पता था कि whale भी migrate करती है, कहाँ से कहाँ जाती है, or even the kind of animals or the things that they talk about.
Yeah.
So I learn from her a lot of things, and I think that's a great thing of having kids, that you will also develop interest in things that you never knew that you had, and it gives you an opportunity to be a child again and relearn things that you had forgotten.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, the best thing.
You and Soha have been together 16 years now. And you've been married, say, 9 years. What are the parenting do's and don'ts? What are the relationship do's and don'ts?
It's very different. She's a different parent than I am.
Yeah,
she's very hands-on, and she's very...
Are you a hands-on parent?
I even if I say it, because I will be out and she is doing the heavy lifting because she knows her school schedules. She'll be like, did you see this email the school sent? I said, अब school वाले भी email भेज रहे हैं यार, रोज email भेजते हैं यार. मैं बोला मैं अभी कैसे उसमें क्या अभी खाने का मेन्यू डिसाइड करूँ. I said इसको जो खाना दे दो यार. So you know she's very like particular what she eats and like her routine is decided by her. I'm the fun person. So and also by that virtue I'm the guy who spoils the kid in her words, not mine. So we've kind of adjusted in those roles because I was in very early. I was like, she provides the food via milk, so she gets to call the shots. I don't, so I don't get to call the shots. So I will be there to help her in whatever way. But now that Ina's grown up a little bit more, I think we have kind of balanced roles. So I don't read emails from school, but other than that, I do a lot of stuff.
Relationship, tell me more about the relationship. Like, how has it grown? And are you like one of those compatible, incompatible couples? How does it go?
See, the relationships, like I said, will always have their ups and downs, and you'll always find things that you agree or disagree on. I think what happens is becoming a parent changes, alters personality. I don't think anything, if you've been with a person for a long time, then I don't think marriage changes anything, at least for me. अगर होगा भी तो 19-20 होगा. But parenting changes everything because then
like give me an example.
Like your entire routine changes, right? To start with, like you walked home from the hospital with another life that people have left to you and gone, and you're like, अभी इसका करना क्या है? ये कितने बजे सोएगा? इसको क्या खिलाना है? ये सब मेरे पे है. तो मैं कैसे संभालूंगा? So from there your routine goes changes. Like I'm to still okay. I was an early morning person. Soha wasn't. So sleep late, wake up late. Now she's up before me, and by that virtue, even I have to be up. So you know your body cycle kind of changes. Your routine changes. Now earlier when she wasn't going to school, it's like you have to feed them. You have to do body changes, diaper changes, set a routine for them. So with that routine, only you will see that slowly things are beginning to change. You're not going to be like, oh, so I'm very bored. I'm 5 days off. Let's go to Goa. School, email, you know, so you can't do that. Or I can't play loud music at any given point of time. I have to be careful of the content that I'm watching around her. Sometimes to her friends will, they'll walk into the room. कुछ उनका तो पूरा घर उनका है. हम बच्चे ना अब बिल्कुल अलग है. हमारा बहुत अलग था. हमारे माँ बाप हमको पूछते नहीं थे, हमको अब पूछना पड़ता है. मेरे को लगता है हमारी जनरेशन फंस गई है, गलत टाइम पे आ गई थी. उससे पहले था जो बोल रहे करो. अब तो सुनो डांटना अलाउड नहीं है. हाथ तो उठाया तो मेरे को लगता है सीधा जेल ही होगी. तो वहां तक तो बात पूछना पड़ता है. डिस्कस फीलिंग्स, वो मैं थोड़ा थक जाता हूँ. आई एम नॉट, मैं थोड़ा ओल्ड स्कूल हूँ. क्यों हुआ, क्या हुआ, उसको थोड़ी पता है क्यों हुआ क्या हुआ. हम बड़े, हमको पता है, हमको बोलना है बस बेटा हो गया चलो आगे बढ़ो. तो वो बच्चे का पूरा घर खुला उनके लिए. जब आ गए हमको परमिशन लेके जाना पड़ता है. डोंट गो इन दैट रूम, द किड्स आर प्लेइंग. ओके, बट मैं यहाँ पे पागल हूँ, ये घुस गए अभी थोड़ी देर में, सब चिल्लाते. सो या, सो अ लॉट ऑफ those sacrifices have to happen.
You're very funny. What do you look forward to most, going back to sets as an actor or going back to set as a director?
You know, both. Acting will still always be my first love, but I think like I said, as an actor, you know, a lot of time is spent waiting, which now being a director, I have kind of, you know, you're proactive, you're constantly stimulated in your mind of what you're going to do. You have to create problem solving. So I feel it's more rewarding to be a director on set, but the passion and the love of an actor is something that I am very happy to sit in the van and wait for 2 more hours and, you know, go and work for only 20 minutes in a day and then again do that same thing again. And sometimes, you know, we've been put into a situation, every actor has, where you have to wear a jacket in summer because in the film it's committed that you're in a winter place and everybody else is. And similarly, you can be shooting in Kargil and everybody's in thermals and you're wearing a single t-shirt and jeans and, you know, doing Aaja Gale Lag Ja type situation. So all of those things make it worth it because I think the love that you get from the audience also, and just for me, it's always been sitting in that big dark room with surround sound and watching yourself on that 70 mm. That's something that's so deeply embedded and ingrained in me that I can't see myself not doing that. But having said that, I would like to achieve a balance between the two.
If you had to do Madgaon Express, redo it, how would you do it differently? Is there anything that you'd redo?
I wouldn't actually, that was the other thing that I felt very happy about. I wasn't somebody who kept saying that इसको ऐसे better हो सकता है या वैसे better हो सकता है, or it wasn't like even on with the actors on set, it was never like, because I had imagined these for so many years, so to let go of these characters and let these characters kind of do whatever they wanted to with, I was able to detach from it pretty quick.
You never yelled at your actors? Or
No,
Huh?
not at all. Not at all. There was never the need for it. So that went by smoothly, and even when I made the film, I was happy with it. The only one thing that, not even if I remade it, with this film is, now I've started talking about it, is a shot that I miss, which is when Pratik runs onto the beach, all three of them, and he realizes that his hand is swollen. I wanted, didn't get it, my fault. I wanted a shot where you see the swollen hand and he puts the other hand up so that you could see the difference in the two. At that point, it seemed like इतना बड़ा हाथ लग रहा है तो अच्छा ही होगा, but on screen I always miss कि I can't tell how much it is swollen. That is the one shot. Other than that, it's pretty much the film that I wanted to make. I would make it exactly the same way.
And what next now after this?
I've written a couple of other things which are being reviewed. I'm also in the middle of reading scripts as an actor. So I also need to figure out if, because the thing is, you can do multiple jobs in a year being an actor, but as a director, at least a year, if not a year and a half, is gone from the day you commit to a film, between pre-production, production, post-production, and the release. So that's where I am right now. I have to kind of figure out if I'm picking up something to act in, if I can finish it within time to start my next.
And if you were to redo anything else about your life, is there something that you'd redo?
I wouldn't, because this is the life that I know, and what is to come is unknown. Why would I mess with it? Because I don't know that one thing that was changed, uska repercussion kya
You
hoga.
never did theatre. You never went back to theatre.
I did a lot of theatre in college. Unfortunately, it's not enough to run a house. That's the sad part of theatre, and I think that's why it's always kind of struggled. Because I don't know if it is the audience or the economics that goes into it, but I think it is the actor's medium. So it gives you a lot of satisfaction as an actor to do that, but it doesn't pay very well. So I think that's kind of kept, and that's why a lot of actors, when they're close to retirement and everything is said, they kind of go back and do that. I haven't kind of gone back yet.
And now we have an audience which wants to ask you a few questions.
please.
Hi. What advice did you receive when people were like listening about you directing Madgaon Express? Like, did you take any? Was it working for you?
It's a good question. I don't think anybody gave me any advice. Yeah, I can't remember.
Like you were working with Farhan's production agency, and Farhan himself is a director. Did they give you any kind of Zoya, Ritesh? Did they give you any kind of advice? No.
I think they gave me the most important thing, which was freedom, to kind of have my own voice and go with that. And I would like to give myself some credit. Maybe I didn't give them reason enough to feel that I needed advice. I think I was headed in the right direction. So everybody gave me a lot of encouragement, but advice, no. I think, a couple of things was like, I don't know if somebody said to me or I realized this myself, because every director agrees that a lot of direction is people management. So I don't know if somebody had said that before to me, but yeah, that would be one advice.
So, Madgaon Express is about this wild trip to Goa.
Right.
Can you tell us the wildest thing you've done on a trip?
They don't come across as very wild, but they're extremely funny. And the problem is that they're funny to me and my friends, because there is so much reference to context. I don't know if they end up being funny for everybody else, but I remember once we had gone to Goa on a college trip. That was the first time that we went, and of course you're not allowed to drink any kind of alcohol on a college trip, right? So we had managed to escape because one of our friends lied to our professor saying that his mom and dad were in town and his uncle lived there, and so we just going to go for lunch, and somebody was there on the other line speaking as that person. So we were allowed to go away for 2 hours. So we ended up going and having fun at the shack and drinking and everything, and we came back. Now everybody else was so pissed off that they were like, we're going to rat you out. So I said, तो फंस जाएंगे यार, क्या करें? तो सर हमको भी बियर पिलाओ. सर बियर पिलाओ, ठीक है. तो हम बियर ले आए. अब किसी ने बता दिया कि ये लोग बियर लाए, तो हमारे कमरे में बियर थी और अब आ गए रेड मारने प्रोफेसर. तो जब वो आए तो उनको मिली नहीं, क्योंकि हमने वो ऊपर जो एसी का वेंट होता है वो खोल के अंदर डाल दी, और फिर वो नीचे ले गया तो हम भी भूल गए कि यहाँ बियर पड़ी है. रात को सोते सोते 2:30 बजे ठप करके आवाज आई है और उसमें से पानी गिर रहा है वो पड़ गई फिर क्यों ना फिर वो रात में चुपचाप साफ करके कैसे करके निकले हम लोग भागे भागे.
Has any movie ever like put you to sleep, like it being so boring that you just like
It's not never in a theater because everything is so loud, right? There have been films that have encouraged you to walk out of a theater, but you never fallen asleep in a theater. On TV, yes. On a platform, yes.
When was the last time you slept through a movie?
I haven't recently slept through a movie. I've slept through a couple of shows, but not a movie.
You have done so many movies in Goa, so any real life stories from Goa?
गोवा की तो दी थी. गोवा में तो बहुत स्टोरीज है हमारे पास. और क्या हुआ जब हम मडगांव एक्सप्रेस प्रमोट कर रहे थे तो सब निचोड़ दी उन्होंने. एक दो तो मैंने क्रिएट करके भी डाल दी थी. बट सब खत्म हो चुकी है.
Anyway, thank you very much. Continue to be as funny as you are, and more power to you as a director and also as an actor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And